We're going to talk now about Eurovision, which is, in some ways, unravelling. Israel will, after all, be allowed to participate, which was more than enough to cause a bit of an exodus. Netherlands will not now take part as a result, nor will Spain, Ireland, Slovenia is out too. Iceland and Belgium deciding whether they're going to follow suit. And Fraser Nelson, before that break, you were saying this is not only a story that's going to capture the attention of an awful lot of people. I was just looking at the audience for Eurovision last time round. It was 166 million people across Europe, and in this country, well, getting on for 7 million people. And so, look, it's not only a story that's going to grab a huge amount of attention. It matters on different levels. Just tell me what you're thinking.
Well, this is the world's most watched non-sporting event. I mean, save for some coronation or something, nothing gets more people from more countries around the television. And in Europe, this is an annual celebration of our culture. I mean, us as in Europeans, this isn't an American thing, kind of goes over American heads, but we celebrate difference. We celebrate the way that you might say that low culture represents countries a bit better than high culture. All the opera and what have you is exactly the same no matter where you go. If you want to see how different countries are, you look at the face they want to present to the world through music, through Schlager, through entertainment, and it's a collision of politics, culture and music. And it is fascinating for that. Now, for Israel, when it was included in 1973, it was a bit funny. Look, is it really a European country? But this is about values, not about geography. Israel is the only country in the Middle East where you can have basically pretty much most acts in Eurovision would be hanging from a lamppost in Eurovision. But, you know, in the Middle East, had they not, well, not from Israel. I mean, to have a trans singer, as they did, Dana International, who won in 2001, that was a great statement why Israel is different. What other country in the Middle East would a trans singer be able to have a real proper career? Israel's defending these European values of diversity, polarity, tolerance, letting people live and let live in a very difficult part of the world, having to constantly fight wars for this. So you would think that its inclusion in Eurovision would be cherished by those who value these values, but it seems not. Yeah,
I mean, of course, Ireland will and have and will again say that Israel today does not represent those values. They say that a regime, the Netanyahu regime, is a regime of persecution and of mass killing, and the reverse of all of the values you stated to the power.
Yeah, well, that's first of all confusing people with this government. Eurovision's about people, is not about the governments. And then if you're going to get upset about wars, what about Britain that invaded Iraq in 2003, for example? If you're going to go down that road, where do you really stop? Israel as a culture is the most tolerant culture in the Middle East. Only recently they had a trans referee at a football match. Can you imagine that happening anywhere else in the Middle East? When I think about Israel, that is what I think about. There's the avant-garde side of Tel Aviv, the way that it allows so many people from so many backgrounds to flourish in a way that simply wouldn't be possible were it not for the values of the Israeli state.
Right, I want to get Adam's view and Kirsty's view. Really keen to hear both of you on this, but just to put a point on that for the moment, Fraser, before we come back to you, are you therefore concluding that this boycott by these countries are wrong-headed, that they are, well, you're nodding your head?
Absolutely. This is a fundamental misunderstanding of what Eurovision is about. This is fundamentally conflating a people with the actions of a government, and it is turning a blind eye to the real struggle that minorities have in the Middle East. Minorities are only safe in Israel. All
right. Adam, tell me, where are you on this?
As a general rule, I don't like boycotts because I think that everyone has faults in their closet, and I think to cooperate with each other constructively is, generally speaking, a good idea. That said, I also think that these countries that are withdrawing are just displaying massive bad manners. I mean, I think if you participate for years in a major event, a major sporting event, a major cultural event, the decision on who participates lies with the organisers and the collective of the organisation. And I think if the organisation decides that they're going to let Israel or anyone else participate, then everyone else should respect that. Otherwise, they are disrespecting the event. Now, people will say, well, what about Russia? Russia's been excluded. Well, that was a collective decision to exclude Russia, which I think is fair enough. But I think if there is not a collective view taken by the organisers and all the participants for individual countries to boycott another country is very dangerous. And you know, Fraser says, and I think he's probably quite right, that not that I am a viewer of Eurovision, I stress that it does display a lot about the cultures of the various countries involved. I just think this kind of behaviour, sadly, does betray a lot about the cultures which we've got at the moment. And I do think there are concerns about, in Ireland being one country in particular, I don't know less well about Spain, but I mean, that clearly Ireland, its attitude towards Israel is bordering into anti-Semitism. You know, we've had the proposals to rename Herzog Park in Dublin. We've had the Israeli embassy being made not welcome in Dublin. I mean, you know, there are strains in European culture relating to Jews and to Israel, which, you know, I think are resurfacing uncomfortably, frankly.
Okay. That's interesting. I'm sort of following your reasoning with interest. And I note your point that in the case of the Olympics, it was the International Olympic Committee that took the decision that they took. I'm just casting back in distant memory for other examples that sort of fit your narrative.
Well, the Eurovision itself, I mean, that excludes Russia.
Well, you'll recall the South Africa cricket boycott, but that of course had a lot to do with South Africa, the team itself, and South African cricket having an apartheid policy in the sport, and so that sort of matches your reasoning too. You're saying a blow against the people of a country should be distinct from a blow against the country, the regime in power.
Yeah.
Kirsty, tell us, you're a fan.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan. It's absolute must-view TV in my house. Look, Eurovision was created to do two things. One, in the kind of birth and explosion of live broadcast, it wanted to test the technological boundaries of broadcast. But mainly, it was created and set up to celebrate what unites communities in the wake of World War II. The first Eurovision was in 1956, I think, from memory. Not that I was around. And so, I completely agree with everything that both Adam and Fraser have said. You know, this is about the power of music and the power of sport. Sometimes we talk about boycotts in sports too, to unite people as politics divides people sometimes, and I think you're in danger of conflating one with the other if you go for a kind of cheap shot like this. And I think that there is a danger between the sort of domestic politics of various different governments playing to a very vocal minority, a substantial minority, but a minority view, I suspect, within this country. It is a huge political headache. I will guarantee that one of the first questions the Prime Minister's official spokesman will get tomorrow in the lobby briefing that they have every morning with the journalists is, what is the Prime Minister's view on whether they should be boycotted or not? And it's also yet another headache, massive cultural headache for our public service broadcaster, the BBC. Yeah. RTE, which is the Irish public service broadcaster, has come out. The BBC, from within its own staff and externally, will face huge pressures around this too. And it's just another kind of BBC getting caught in a huge culture war.
Yeah. I wonder how much this will hurt the regime in Israel. I mean, boycotts, and there aren't too many of this level of profile. They do hurt the countries being targeted. I mean, how much would it hurt in Israel?
I'm not sure this will hurt Israel very much. I mean, I suspect there's all these countries that have boycotted Eurovision, and I think the contest will be watched just as avidly in those countries as it was before. Remember, this is something which is taken by the elites, by the government, not by the people. So I think we should... I'll be very surprised if the viewing figures in Ireland dip very much below where they were before. As far as Israel's concerned, it's had to fight battles every day of its life just to be as it is, to be the kind of country where it is right now, where you can love who you want, you can be who you want. That is fighting battles in so many ways that I think was actually puts it into sharp relief. Now, the strange thing is that in this instance, in my view, it is Israel that is conforming to European values of tolerance, diversity and respect, and it's the other countries protesting against it. They're the ones who are opting out, as it were, of the European values of tolerance, diversity, and respect for the people rather than the government,
Yes.
and also recognition that Israel is holding a light in that region that no other country has come close to being able to hold.
Yeah, I just wonder how many more countries will go down this path. And as we're speaking, Portugal has joined the list of countries saying they're going to be taking a decision on this in coming hours.
That's the first serious blow, because they were getting quite good recently. The one recently with the Portuguese language one. The countries that have dropped out so far have not been very good. Spain hasn't had a good entry since 1968. I mean, Ireland, ever since Johnny Logan, they've been going downhill. The other countries saw it as a bit of a cost. They just got humiliated. I don't think Ireland's been, most of the time, years Ireland doesn't even get to the top 20. So for most of them, they spend a lot of money not even making it through to the final because they get voted out in the semis. So they'll be looking for an excuse in a lot of cases.
Apparently, it says here there are 37 countries that compete in Eurovision, and that was the number at the last time. I mean, is it possible to have a guess at how many may go down this route and how many will choose not to?
I suspect not very many who had a habit of finishing in the top 10 will go down this route. This is
Ireland's won quite a lot, hasn't it?
Oh no, you're thinking of the Johnny Logan Hold Me Now period, which almost bankrupted
And
Ireland because they
Dana
were
and all that. They kept on winning.
Dana was British, by the way. She fielded by Ireland, but that was but that goes to show how political Eurovision is. I mean, Ireland fielded as its candidate this girl from the Bogside, who was standing up and talking at the time when the Troubles were at their most high. She was sitting there singing about raindrops and roses and whiskers on kittens or whatever all kinds of everything song was. And yet, so when she won, it was a vote for those forces of peace and tolerance at the time versus a backdrop of war. Politics is always part of Eurovision, but the idea is to have it within the comity of the Eurovision family.
Yeah.
Now, right now, it is very difficult to pull off a Eurovision winner. The Russians were actually doing it quite well before they were expelled, wrongly in my view. But the countries who are not able to match the high standards that Eurovision now attests will see in this an excuse to slink away from the stage and let the A-team really carry it on.
What about this insinuation that, John, you read out that Israelis were somehow using their digital expertise to fiddle the vote? I mean, that was I mean, is there any truth in that?
Can you cast any light on that? Because it is pretty clearly suggested. It's not a subject I made a great deep study of. I absolutely admit, but the idea there was organisation from within Israel. It's not clear whether the state or state inspired, but there was some organised.
Well, there was organised.
Of the
there
vote.
was organised advertising calling on people to phone in on the public vote and support for that.
Yeah.
But ultimately, people have still got to pick up the phone and vote with their feet.
I mean,
right?
there was a public backlash. People who wanted to support Israel would vote for its entry sometimes, regardless of the quality of the entry. But let's face it, in 2003, Turkey's entry didn't deserve to win. They only got that because they denied access to the Americans to invade Iraq. At the time, they picked up a big anti-war vote at the time. So you were always going to get these politicised votings. It isn't organised by the Israelis. I mean, the Russians would look into this.
We got null point, didn't we, last time?
Well,
we frequently do.
That's because we always send out an act so bad as to be a passive-aggressive insult to the whole country.
And bear in mind, actually, the contestant last year who won the public vote, the Israeli contestant, was actually a singer who was at the Nova Festival. I'm right, aren't I, Fraser, in that? And I think that was one of the reasons she got such a huge public vote.
Yes.
Because the Nova Festival, again, is an example of people coming together from many nations to celebrate culture, and something horrific and traumatic happened to them. And I think there was a lot of sympathy vote for her too, and solidarity for what she had gone through.
Yeah, is it sort of uniquely or particularly British that we seem to have taken or take year after year this perverse delight in doing dreadfully in the voting?
It is. No, I'll tell you why. Because we pay almost no effort into choosing our entry. I mean, in Sweden they do it for several weeks. More people vote for that than vote in the general election in Sweden to choose their entry. Ours gets chosen by a BBC Politburo, who put minimal entry, who by and large to stay in the contest.
And we almost won a couple of years ago. Had it not been for Ukraine,
because we had a freak with it. We had a sort of social media sensation. But we have got enough. If you look at all the Eurovision entries this year, so many of the producers I've noticed are actually based in London. So we've got the talent in this country to do it, but we choose not to. I wish that would go back to having the good old sort of Song for Europe proper contests. I think Europe needs Britain very very much this year.
Well, in my household, my family love Eurovision. I mean, they watch it passionately. I'm usually in another room. Not because I'm against it, I just don't get
It's
it.
so much fun.
Oh, you don't know what you're missing out on.
This time I'm
So
probably going
much
to
fun.
tune in just to sort
It
of
is
hear.
the world's most inebriated electorate, and it's just a chance. It's the things with Europe. It's the one night that the European people right around the world, all of these languages and cultures will get together and have the same sort of fun in the same sort of way. And that is, I love to think that it was happening in Reykjavik and in Tel Aviv at the same time, but it's certainly going to be happening in Tel Aviv this year.
Nelson, great to get your input on this developing story.